Welcome to Mama T Energy. I'm Tiara, aka Mama T, and I invite you on a journey to loving your life through stories, channeled messages, and energy work. I love life, and it is my mission to guide you and millions like us to discovering our passion for life. Let's open our hearts and dive in. Today's episode will be the last episode of 2024, so allow yourself space to integrate because it's going to be powerful and potent. Today, we have a very special guest, a mentor of mine, Jacqueline Shaw, who is a seven-figure mentor and spiritual teacher. Jack, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Just as you said the first words here, like channeled wisdom, storytelling, energy, like this is everything I'm about. So I'm so excited to dive in and to have this conversation today.
I love it. So, when it comes to energy and energetics, can you define energetics for us?
Define energetics. I mean, the way that I would say I experience the world and everything within it is in energy first. Is within frequency first. And what that means for me is that we feel things first before we see it in our reality. There's an energy that's moving. We feel the frequency behind the words before we can actually read the words themselves. Like there is an energy that's always being felt. And oftentimes when we feel energy, it doesn't make sense because it's not what we necessarily think that we should feel or what we would feel or that it makes logical sense. And it's this like energy for me, it's moving, it's constantly moving. And it's like when we get quiet, that's when we're able to tap in. That's when we're able to truly feel. That's when we're able to see beyond what we can see with our human eyes. But knowing that everything is created in frequency first, that everything is energy, to me just makes everything feel like a creative game. Because
I love
we
that.
get to play with the energy.
That's fantastic. When did you begin playing with energy?
I mean, my entire life, I would say, but like consciously and
Mhm.
with intention, um, in the past few years, I would say, truly. I feel like I started to maybe be more aware.
Mhm.
I feel like I dabbled, to be honest. I feel like there was like so much toe dipping. There was so much like, you know, in and out and let's play, but then let's retract. And this doesn't really make sense. And if I talk about this, this feels weird. So there wasn't like full ownership of it, definitely into the last few years.
I love it. I like, for those who are not familiar with Jack, like, I love your energy. I feel like the second I saw you on a screen, I was like, I need to tap into her energy. I need to like tap into your work. And I will say that one of the things that really resonated with me, it was just like this permission to really step forward and kind of attune to that frequency of like, oh wait, like energy does come first. Oh wait, like stop, overthinking over here and then going back to the energy and then going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And one of the things that I dove into was your belief codes. So, can you talk about what are belief codes?
Yeah, I definitely can. One thing before I answer this question though, because as you were talking, I felt like important to just like kind of go back to this energy piece. And it's like it's been a roller coaster for me. I would say, you
Mhm.
know how I said I toe dipped? It was like I was doing things from a very like energy place as I began my business, started my business, and then was like, oh wait, is this enough? Like, can I just do this? Like, can I scale this way? And I got outside of leading with energy because I
Mhm.
got caught up in the shoulds and what you have to do and what other people were telling me. And so this is what I mean when I say I like toe dip because I kept like feeling it, moving with it, but then I would drop the energy. Then I would give my power away. Then I would give my power away to things, circumstances, people, teachers outside of me. And so when you came in and met me and found me, I was in a place where I had fully like reclaimed the sense of power and was just in like full ownership that I get to fully lead in energy, in conversations around energy and frequency. But I did do this dance for such a long time, which I think
Mhm.
many people do.
Oh, yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're in that dance, I just wanted to share, like, I've been in that dance. And when you decide to like fully step in, it shifts everything. And it shifts everything very quickly.
I love it. because everything can shift in an instant. That's something I hear you say, and it's like become integrated into my own like verbiage and what I say to others. And
Yeah.
so it's become a belief code of mine. So
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that.
It's in an instant, it's in a moment. And then this leading into your question, like, what is a belief code? So it's almost interesting that I feel like I've coined this like term belief codes, because what I actually do with people when they come in and they do belief code work with me is we go beyond the belief to the knowing. And
Mhm.
so, but it starts with the belief. And so it's moving from belief to knowing to experiencing. Oftentimes we're not even solid in the belief. And so it's like, I want to do this thing, or I have this desire, or I want to grow this business, or I want to, attract my soulmate, whatever it is. But the thought, like, it's like, I want that. But the immediate thought, the immediately a belief that tends to come in is, well, that's not possible for me, or I don't have the evidence of this existing, or we bring in some old piece of coding, some old evidence, some old story, a story that might be ours from the past, that might have been handed down to us, that might be generational. So we have all of these codes within us, all of these belief systems that aren't even actually ours, or if they are ours, they're from past versions of who we are, not who we are today in this moment. And so when I talk belief code work, we look at the untruths, the lies that we tell ourselves, like the beliefs that are no longer serving you in this moment when you know that you're the creator and this is what you're here to create and this is what you want to call forth next. It's like, let's look at the belief codes that are no longer serving you. Exit, like those get to exit. It's like stage left, goodbye. Um, and how that happens is like we really bring our awareness to the belief codes that are old, that are the untruths that we're hanging on to, that don't serve us. And then it's really anchoring in to, again, not just that belief, that like hope, cross our fingers, wish for it energy, but into the absolute depth of knowing, of like knowing that this is what you're here to experience, this is who you are, this is what you're made for.
Mhm. And can you talk about how knowing feels different in like your body and frequency?
Yeah, so for me, again, like the belief feels hmm, like it kind of just feels light. It feels like it's possible. It feels very just like that's a nice wish, you know? And I feel like when you share this belief with people, people are often like, oh, like that's so nice. And I hope that you get that. It's light. It feels like that could be possible for me. And knowing, I mean, you can hear it in my voice. Like one is like high and full of hope and potentiality, and the other is just like depth. It is depth, it is trust, it is faith, it is conviction. It's an energy of like where I feel it. I call it the portal behind my heart. It's like, it's not a body sensation for me and like this like tingling or this gut knowing. It just feels like the depth of truth in my soul.
Mm. I love that you said the portal behind your heart because I totally did the behind your heart activation this morning. And so I'm curious, can you talk about how did you discover activations and your ability to do them and what they are for those who might not be familiar?
Yeah, I absolutely can. The first question is going to feel a bit tricky because I don't actually know. Like when you're like, how did I start? I mean, for me, let's start with what an activation is. And so an activation, let's start with what it's not. It's not a meditation. Like it's not designed to have you go into a meditative state. It's not a visualization where we're like, let's visualize in the future. It's literally like, let's activate in the now frequency. Like let's activate your energy. Let's shift energies. Let's shift frequency right here. And this goes along with what you first asked me and what my beliefs are about energy. Like we can shift in an instant. We shift energetically first. We shift in our energy body. And then it's like, our physical body calibrates, the 3D world catches up. But as I started to experience this for myself, I found that a lot of work that I was doing with my clients, we were focusing on a lot of mindset work. We were focusing on like trying to get it at the mind level. And I used to often say, like, your mind doesn't even need to get it because your soul already does. But that was really
Mhm.
hard for people to comprehend because they're like, you know, and I would work with a lot of clients who had, worked and done other, trainings and stuff. And they were like, I get what you're saying, Jacqueline. Like I've heard this concept before. I get it up here in my mind. How do I embody it? How does it become my way of operating, my way of being? And for me, it was like, well, we just have to put you into that state right now. We have to shift that frequency right now. And I started trusting in how I was guided to lead my clients. This was very much with private clients at first. And it was kind of like a behind the scenes. There was kind of like, well, there's this like thing I feel called to like share with you. There's this thing I feel called to do. Are you open to it? And I would record and create these like 10, 15-minute activations for my private clients based on like things that they had shared with me, my experience of them, what I had experienced knowing about their belief codes. And within these like 10 to 15 minutes, like things shifted so rapidly. And so I kept bringing it into my work with my private clients. And then I started to bring in, I was like, okay, what if I do an activation for a smaller group, like a group that I know? And so my mastermind clients, I started to lead activations with because I was like, I really know them. Like they're close proximity with me. I know their thoughts, I know their beliefs. And so I can, create an activation that feels very like specific for them, which was
Mhm.
incredible. And within this, I kept just, I guess, building up my own confidence, my own trust in like the words that would come through for me, and that I was being guided, and that I would, know what to say and know how to lead in order to have people have these like massive breakthroughs and shift this energy. And then I started to do some activations in some bigger courses. And then Melanie and Lair like knew of my work because I was a client of hers, and she was like, no, like everything I hear about your activations are so like powerful. Can you do it for like thousands of people and like come into my spaces? And I was like, absolutely. Because at that point I had like built up the trust within myself, but it didn't start off of let me just like hop on a stage and lead an activation for thousands of people.
Mhm.
I built up that energy and that like trust within myself, but from doing, like, and this is what I say, it's like the being energy for me is where the idea comes through, is where the creation happens. But then it's like, I've got to step into the alignment. I've got to step into the doing of it and trusting in, what I feel called to share, to say. This was the biggest thing for me, especially as I started to lead large groups of people in activations. I was used to that, one to one, that small group where people would tell me, this is what happened during the activation. This is what I felt. This was my experience. And then as I started to lead activations for bigger groups of people, it was just pure trust that people were going to receive exactly what they were meant to receive. That also allowed me to like loosen the control. It's like, I don't need this activation to go a certain way. Like I didn't need to create it from my head in order for people to have, these massive energy shifts. I started to trust in people and their power to guide themselves.
Ooh, that's powerful.
Yeah. And so
I
it's like I bring them into the energy, I bring them into this frequency, but it's not even so much. I mean, it's the words that I say, it's the music that I bring in, it's everything combined. But the person who's having like the greatest impact, they're coming in with that belief that this is what it takes. They're not feeling like, oh, it's just this thing that I'm doing, but it's not really going to work for me. That typically, doesn't work.
Mhm. Mhm. So, speaking of trust, how have you developed this trust for yourself, this knowing? I love the fact that you're in such collaborations and collaborative efforts. I remember once, I think it was like a post talking about like that you can teach anything to anyone. You could be with Oprah, Melanie and Lair, anyone, and like you can see yourself at that level. So can you speak to that and that confidence that comes with it?
Yeah, I mean, at my core, like my core belief for me, for you, for everyone, is that we all, each and every one of us, has codes within us, has sacred wisdom within us that other people, every other person on the planet can benefit from. And so when you say like Oprah, Tony Robbins, Melanie Ann Lair, like whoever it is, like, do they have incredible codes that they get to share with the world and that I will benefit from? Yes. Do I also have codes and a unique perspective and unique truths that I believe they can benefit from? Yes, because I believe that to be true about each and every one of us here. And so then it's being willing to stand in conviction of your own truth. It's being willing to stand in conviction with your wisdom. It's being willing to say that, like, it almost feels like at that level, it's like that brings in this like hierarchy energy. And I feel like we're each here on our own soul journey. And so
Mhm.
it's like if I'm on my soul journey and you're on your soul journey, it's like I've got codes for you, you've got codes for me. The more that we're all willing to share through storytelling, to share through conversations like this, again, people are just popping off in their own energy field with these codes. And so that's why a podcast is so powerful. It's like not that you need to be sitting in direct conversation with, someone for them to get it. I don't need to sit in direct conversation for someone to get it. Just hearing these conversations shifts energy.
Mm. Yes, it does. Um, with that, talking about the trusting, the holding the energy, um, can you speak to like how can you hold a frequency for an extended period of time? Like, I think I saw a post talking about it. This was like 3 years in the making, right? 3 years to a lot of us, if someone was to say ahead of time, like, hey, this is going to take you 3 years to get where you need to go, regard like up front, they're like, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if I can hold that thread. I'm going to get a little bit wobbly down that line. So can you speak on that?
Well, it's interesting because I actually feel for most people, if they were told that, like in 3 years, this is gonna work, they'd be able to hold that energy because they'd have like a guarantee. They'd
Mm,
have certainty of something at the end. And so I think when we know, we're actually really like it makes it a lot easier to hold the energy. We may be like, oh my gosh, there's going to be moments of wobble and doubt. But if I already know the outcome, am I going to be able to stretch my energy? Yes.
yeah.
Why I find it so hard for people to hold that energy is because there's no certainty and they
Mm,
haven't learned to master the energetics in the unknown. And so for me, holding the energy means like I'm willing to stretch my capacity. It means dismantling like timelines, like the time that I think things need to happen on, the way that it should look, the how it should happen. So again, it's surrender in trust, surrender in faith. But really, this unknown energy, like being in the unknown, for most people, it's very scary because that's where we have no control. That's where we want to step in and take control and like touch everything with our human fingerprints. But this is the place when we can fully surrender in the unknown, when we can go deeper into states of being energy. Well, this is where the miracles present themselves. This is where the magic happens. This is where, quantum leaps happen. This is where the quantum shifts happen when we're willing to get out of our own way, when we're willing to release the control, when we're willing to not force things, when we're willing to drop the shoulds, when we're willing to witness, like, okay, when I'm in the unknown, do I, step into the frequency of lack? Do I step into the frequency of control? Do I buy into the illusion of need? Like, where do I go? And when I can master these, like I said, master the energetics in the unknown, well, that for me is like the portal where everything happens. So for me now, it's like being in the unknown is actually what makes me feel the most alive because it's like there's a shift that's ready to happen here.
do you have a story of being in the unknown that you can share with us to kind of walk us through what it looks like for you?
Oh my gosh, I have a million stories of being in the unknown. But the one that's coming through for me to share right now is within my business. And again, was just like following a call, following a soul calling. I learned very on, I'd say, in my spiritual journey, like in life to not deny my soul and then to bring that into my business and to like not deny my soul, meaning that like when I feel called to do something and it doesn't make sense to my mind, to be willing to follow that call because I know again it's scary, it feels uncomfortable, I'm going into the unknown, but something's ready to be birthed here. There's like a new creation desiring to come forward. And so for I'm going to say 6, 7, possibly even 8 years, um I ran a business with my best friend and my business partner. We had this online brand and it was a multiple seven-figure business and we were running a retreat together in Costa Rica. And right before we ran the retreat, like we had planned the next year retreat, like everything was being like, this was kind of like the most thriving time of our business. Like everything was scaling, everything was becoming easier. Our partnership was great. And literally, when she drove away from the retreat, like I was living in Costa Rica, she was driving like to go to the airport. As she left, I was like, we're not going to run that retreat next year. And it felt like a very weird thought because like I love running in person. I was like, why would we not be running that retreat next year? Like that makes no sense. And then literally a couple days later, she was actually going on vacation for 3 weeks. And I was like, I feel like we're complete with our business together. And it was just
Mm.
like, it feels complete. And I sent her a message and we ended up having a very quick conversation, which seems wild to dismantle a multiple seven-figure business that's been operating for 7-ish years in a quick Voxer conversation. But as soon as I said it to her, she felt it as well. And we made an exit plan for our business very quickly. And that, I mean, that was so into the unknown because now, like, all of a sudden, I am fully financially responsible for my family. My husband's in a startup company. His business is in startup phase. I was like, yeah, like I've got this. You go follow your dream. You start up. We've got two young kids. We have a house. We have another, property that we rent in Costa Rica. Like it wasn't just like, oh, well, there's money flying around everywhere. I can just say goodbye to this seven-figure business.
Mhm.
It was like, oh, if you really close down this business, like the majority of your family's finances go away with it. And it just felt like such truth to me that I was like, I've got to do it. Like, I've got to do it. Like, it just feels right. I didn't know what was coming on the other side. It felt uncomfortable. It felt like there was definitely moments that I go to my head, this makes absolutely no sense. I was in mentorship spaces. I talked to other entrepreneurs about it. My best friend, like, talked to her family about it. And everyone's like, you guys are insane. Like, can you just keep this part of it? Well, the course is already created. Can you just keep selling them? And we were both like, no, we're done. Like, we're
Mhm.
done. We're complete. And we finished leading the things that we had for our clients and it was incredible. But after I made that decision, it was literally within days that Melanie and Lair invited me to come in and lead stuff in her space, obviously creating a lot of visibility for me. I had like literally said a prayer to God, like once that business went complete, I was like, just put the people in front of me and I will lead them and I will activate them and I will lead them in their truth. And then this opportunity comes up a couple days later. And then I fully embarked the next year on building my personal brand. At the end of that year, my success had like grown exponentially. My personal income had doubled from what it had the year before. And yet it made no sense. It made no sense that I
Mhm.
had decided to like not do what I had always done that was still working, that was still, operating a business in partnership with my best friend, like a woman who's still like my best friend today.
Oh, I love that you followed that intuition though. So can you speak a little bit about your I guess starting your spiritual journey and how you developed being able to listen?
Well, this I call my spiritual smackdown, where I say I got no option into listening because I did that toe dip thing. It was like, okay, I'll like toe dip, I'll like kind of play here, I'll kind of listen, I'll kind of,
Mhm.
And I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. And to be honest, like her health was not great. There were some complications with my pregnancy. I had two second term miscarriages between my two kids. So I was literally at this
Mhm.
point just like, I've got to listen to everything. And like, because it literally felt like her life depended on it. And so this is where I say I got no option in. It was like, okay, anything that I got, even though if it was uncomfortable for me to look like, even if I felt scared, even if it made no sense, I was like, I'm willing to look, like I'm willing to see what I haven't seen before. And when I see, I'm like not willing to close my eyes anymore.
Mm.
And I really would say like that was the beginning of like just deeply trusting in myself because there was a deep trust in what hadn't yet been revealed to me is what it felt like. It's like, okay, I don't see everything. I don't see all the pieces of the puzzle, but I started to believe and trust that God was trusting in my or was conspiring in my favor, that the universe was
Mhm.
conspiring in my favor, but I was seeing it as an energetic response to I was conspiring in my favor. I was listening to those pings. I was following the intuition. I was listening to like the voice inside that felt uncomfortable to listen to, the voice that said like, are you like fucking crazy? Like, no. I started to deeply, deeply listen because I went and allowed myself to be in like deep states of being energy. I would say like states of being, silence, stillness, contemplation.
And do you find yourself comfortable in the silence?
Big time. I love the silence. Like I'm like, I often say, I'm like, if I could just go live in a cave. I've got two kids. I was gonna say two young kids. I mean, they're not that young anymore. They're 8 and 10, young-ish. Um, but I was like, oh gosh, if I didn't have my family, like I could just go live in a cave and I could read and meditate and pray all day and write. Like that would kind of be my dream. Love being alone, love the silence, love the stillness, which is again was also a big shift for me. Like when even when I first met my husband, his energy is actually like not so out there all the time. Um, and at first it drove me nuts. I was like, what do you mean? Like you just like don't want to be around people and you don't want to be out and you don't want to be like in the middle of all of the action and alive all the time. And so this hasn't always been my way of operating. Like I being alone used to like, I mean, I was probably in hindsight like very uncomfortable being with myself.
Mhm.
Um, but gosh, I love to be alone. I love the stillness. I love the silence. Like I love, yes, all of it.
I think it's so funny how like we allow ourselves to like kind of shift and change over life. Because I went from that like, oh, party, 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 let's go. And now I'm like, ooh, can we just like sit on the couch and just just be for a moment? And that wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's my favorite.
Mm, beautiful. What advice would you give to someone who feels like they're following the strategies, they are feel like they're doing the energetic work, they're doing everything, or at least they think they are, and but still not experiencing what they want?
I would like take an honest look at anywhere that you're saying yes to things that you want to say no to. And like
Mm,
really looking at like and honoring your sacred no. What I find there's a lot of, conversations being had around like that hell yes energy, that like things that light you up and turn on that sacral fire. But then we're still doing a lot of things based on thinking we need to or have to or should or somebody else has it figured out and we don't. And so one thing that I would definitely look at, like, is there things within your business, if there's things within the strategy that you don't actually want to code in? And so this is how I always look at it. It's like if I'm not experiencing what I want to be experiencing, where am I stepping out of my own alignment? Am I following any shoulds? Am I, coding in again? It's like, if I like, is this going to be a code I want to carry forward?
mhm,
And so it's like, am I willing to step out of my alignment for a moment to get the result? And then telling myself, well, once I get that result, like I'll shift and I won't do that anymore, kind of thing. Am I, giving away my personal power? A lot of the work I do is in harnessing your personal power. So am I outsourcing my power? Am I giving my power away to the strategist? Am I giving my power away to somebody else's blueprint? Am I giving my power away to God because I'm like, I don't believe I'm a co-creator, that God lives within me. And so I'm actually like continuing to give energy and to leak energy everywhere. These are the places that I would definitely look at to begin and seeing like, am I living and operating in alignment with like my truth, with what I say? When am I following, like, am I conspiring in my favor? Like, am I living my truth? Am I following those intuitive nudges, or am I waiting? Am I saying one day, or when I'm here, or when I have this evidence, or when I
mhm,
whatever it is, well then I'll do it.
mhm. So when you say like giving your energy away to God, so like thinking of like, okay, I pray for this. So can you talk about how the difference between giving away versus co-creating?
Yeah. So I find that um when I say like giving our power away to God, giving our power away to the universe, it's like thinking like, okay, I'm gonna hand it over to God, not from this like place of like faith and trust and co-creative. And like I said, I'm doing the things and I'm following my alignment, I'm conspiring in my favor. It's like, I don't know what to do here. This feels uncomfortable. I'm going to put some blinders on. God, please just take it. Please enter a miracle. Please do whatever. And I'm just going to sit over here and eat a bag of potato chips and watch Netflix and feel bad about myself and judge myself and shame myself and guilt myself and all of the things. And so it's not you know what I mean? It's not like a
Mhm.
powerful connection and relationship with God where it's like, yes, like I get to go and meet my prayer. I get to be in this co-creative life force energy. It's more like um, this feels so uncomfortable. I don't want it. So here, God, you take it, is how
Right.
I
Jesus, take the
feel.
wheel.
Like just take the wheel because this is too scary for me. This is too uncomfortable. And so we shift from, we're not in that co-creative
Mhm.
energy. We're not in that deep state of like knowing that we talked about. So it's like that might be when, okay, if I just give this to God and I'm going to cross my fingers and wish and hope that he lands a miracle in my lap. But it's like moving from the like wishing to knowing to experiencing energy here.
Mm, yes, I love that. Beautiful. Thank you so, so much. Is there anything else that you want to share with us today?
Anything to share? I mean, just in the essence of these last moments and these questions here, it's always for me, it's like, can I go deeper within? Like, can I trust in the wisdom that I have within me? Can I trust in the codes that I carry? And can I be willing to stand in my truth, even though other people might not get it, even though other people may judge me because, hello, we're humans and we are judgmental. And so it's almost like you're gonna be judged, I'm sure,
Hmm.
anyways. And so I would rather be judged for being in my truth than being judged for who I am not truly even am. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I'd rather stand in who I am. I'd rather speak my truth. But one of the biggest things that allowed me to fully step in this way and to speak my truth is that I really, really shifted from someone who was like, my truth is right. And if your truth is not in alignment with my truth, your truth is wrong. It's like
Mm.
there's one truth and it's my truth. And if not, like I will either convince you or I will cut you off or whatever it would be, or I would just think you're ridiculous. I would judge you. And now a strong like thing that I carry with me is that we're each here on our own journey. We're each here with a different soul agenda. We each have unique codes within us. We each carry our own wisdom and our own truth. And so allowing multiple truths to coexist, knowing that truth even evolves and shifts and changes. Like what was true for me 5 years ago, there's things that are no longer true for me today. So giving myself
Hmm.
permission to grow and evolve and change, giving others permission to grow and evolve and change, and allowing, ultimately multiple truths to coexist. So I don't need to convince anyone. I just get to show up fully as who I am and trust that that serves the people that it's meant to like serve, reach, touch.
I love that. Because, in showing up in your truth, it helps people to kind of define, okay, wait, maybe this is my truth, or maybe it isn't my truth. And you get in like, right? And so people get to see, like, actually, I like what she just said. I think that's going to be my truth now. And it brings them forward.
Well, and this is the coolest thing because it's like that's that done from a place of power, not being like, oh, I like what she said. She's the guru. She's right. Let me just adopt that truth. It's like more from this place of power, like, oh, what she said, it's feeling resonant in my soul. Like it's sparking that my own truth within me. Well, that's powerful to bring forward. It's also powerful if I say something and you're like, I completely disagree with her. Well, guess what? Either way, you've also found your own truth. If you disagree with me, you're finding your truth. And so, you willing to stand in your truth, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I actually see as you being in your power.
Oh, yeah. And that's powerful.
It is. It's powerful. It's powerful when we're willing to stand in our power and stand in our truth.
Mhm. And with that, one of my magic powers is divining through tarot. So, is there a question that you would have? Would you like a general message?
Mm, take a general message.
All right. So we'll be pulling from the Light Seers Tarot deck today. Ooh, I like it. So first things first, the first card that came up is this Devil card. And I knowing what I know about you, it's like you already know how to go within and figure out, okay, what is not serving me? And I feel like this is like the perfect tie-in to the whole conversation that we've had today, because we have the devil, which is like, all right, we have habits that show us, the habits that aren't serving us, the habits that are limiting us, the habits that are holding us back from really living what it is that we desire. But when we bring awareness to it and we understand what it is, then we get to choose to let it go. And when we choose to let it go, then we have this Nine of Cups, which is we get to create our wishes, the manifestation of everything that we desire. And then that puts us in the state of being unfuckwithable, which is the Queen of Pentacles here, right? And she is just And I could see like that's such a resonant like card for you because it's just like always like in her power. She's not worried with any like what anybody else is thinking. It's always like I know who I am and I'm going to show up in my divine magical power. So it's such a perfect message. I feel like this is more a general message for everyone listening rather than just for you, Jack, but like it's so perfect how it all kind of shows up here.
I love it. I love it. And that's, when you asked here, like a general message, a specific message, because I typically would go more specific. And I was like, no, I just feel like general message is where it's at today. And so I love it. I think that those cards, like that message is like perfect and perfectly like ties in with this conversation as well.
Yes. Well, can you share where everyone can tap into your energy? It'll definitely be in the show notes for you guys, but also for those just listening.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my favorite is conversations like this. So my podcast is where you're gonna get to like really come in and get that deep dive and like those thoughts, that truth, those contemplations with me. And so that's the Jacqueline Shaw Show. And then mostly on social media. I mean, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but I tend to hang out more on Instagram, which is Jacqueline_Shaw_.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time, your energy, and knowledge today, Jack. I really appreciate you being here. And you guys that are listening, you know where to go, www.mamateenergy.com for all the access to all the places and spaces and things. And I will see you on the next one. See you next year, actually.
Amazing. Thank you.